It's LOLB.
On my job, I go for the kill with it. All my life, had to learn how to deal with it. When you down, who's the ones that's gonna give a shit? Bring you down and build you up, that's the difference. Determine your purpose and behave with some.
And welcome back to See You on the Flip Side, where we welcome education for creation with your host, Thv Script. I mean, it's been a minute. A lot of things have been collected, a lot of things have been debated, and a lot of things have continued to been worked on, not only here, but all around. So it is a pleasure to be able to return and bring such that effort, to say at the least, to communicate with you all and seek deeper to discover what it is for us that we can share through these messages, through these podcasts, through these visuals, through all the things that you see on the flip side. With that being said, today's topic, communication and understanding. Two things that we seem to not quite find peace on. But if you have the wisdom and guidance to understanding communicative ways to reach and even bridging gaps with others in order for them to communicate, understand, and even build upon that same foundation. With all glory to God, I come here just saying that I'm honored right now, and we are all actively engaged in something right now. That's a blessing. It's not only Sunday, but I woke up. It's a blessing. You're here. I'm here. It's a blessing. So with that being said, all glory to God right now, and only honor that I can approach you with. And at that same heart and pace, the same love I can find you through. Welcome to today's episode of See You on the Flip Side, and we will gather and communicate. We all are hoping to seek understanding with these things, and by the end of this, the clarity of those two entities hopefully just will become very apparent to us, or at least giving us an awareness of areas in which we don't communicate, or rather which we do communicate, vice versa, understanding something maybe the right way versus misinterpreting or misunderstanding of a thing. They weigh on a separate scale, but when valued, you can find balance. Now, today, we will touch on the definition of communication, the definition of understanding. We will even dive into an effective method of understanding. There are 7 C's of effective communication. There are also 5 principles of understanding that I would like to go over, just kind of revisit on my end, but introduce to you on this end just a different spectrum or ideal when approaching communicative ways and methods of understanding. It's not something I can say will change your life, but anything applied, you know. Needless to say, I find it very comforting knowing that it's something I could bring to you that I found a more rooted approach to. I found a more clear-cut, definitive terms to come to agreement with in order to see the way that I understand things, the way that I communicate things, and to know that I don't always apply those methods. But if I did, would I see a difference? And you can ask those same questions as we go through this, because that was my expectation when I glanced over it. I'm looking at different topics at the time that I'm pondering what this episode would be about. And this is a time ago, I felt communication and understanding was essential to anything further that I could push through these like podcasts, through music, through anything that I create. And within that frame, I have to understand what I'm dealing with. I have to understand what I'm communicating, and I have to have those two terms come into agreement. If that doesn't happen, what more could I say? I could dive into talking about anything at this moment, and it's not about if you engage or not, but it's more critical if I find a communicative way to speak to you, and if I find a way of understanding what I want to say to you, or even what I can relay to you, share, and whatever this does, and whatever God does on His terms and on His ends, whenever the body move, because that's why we do this. You know what I'm saying? When I say we, I mean whatever you do too, because what you do, you are empowered to do. It's something that drives you. There's a passion of some sort. There is some moderation of understanding, that starts with self. So all of these things, man, every episode, even when we just go into some frivolous things on every dimension of topics, when we include other people's theories, opinions on said topics, I have to communicate with that guest. I have to understand that this guest may not even see or view something we're talking about on the same level, measure, or you know what I mean? So communication and understanding right here in Kansas City, man. See you on the flip side. This is episode 3, man. So as we step into this evening for me, and whatever time it is for you, hey, I appreciate you coming. I appreciate you showing up. I appreciate everything you do in the essence of support. That's all we can do, and that's all we are willed to do. But you got to do it in your own way. But just remember, you're creating or destroying something at any given time or day. So more power to you today. I'm not gonna waste no time. It's been already a while. You ain't seen me in a minute. And I really did take my time. Not to mention life is demanding. And so is having a stable family in which you build your foundation upon. So I'm always gonna give that more than most. What I give to most is all I can give after giving back to self. And if you know what I mean, that goes to my lady, my child, and all the things above. It's not easy for any of us to carry these responsibilities and stabilities with all the factors that's changing every day in the world. And I pray that this furthermore will support whatever it is I can give. I pray it reaches you and gets delivered to the right place, it's the right address, all that. Hypothetically speaking, man. Don't be commenting your address and none of that weird stuff. I don't need it. Communication. First and foremost, we will touch bases on communication. I'd like to say that's not one of my fondest talents. This is the farthest I push my communication skills in life. So, I make a lot of music. I do a lot of things. I'm an underground cat. I'm a backyard dog, and I'm a front yard soldier. In all aspects of that, communication though seems to fall a little shorter than on my scale of talent. It's something I'm pursuing though. Something I'm taking action in. It's something we all have to do. Communicate. Communication. The imparting or exchanging of information or news. One to another, hearsay, ear to ear, word of mouth, gossip. The imparting or exchanging of information or news. That is typically what communication is defined as. First. Second, a letter or message containing information or news. Okay. Not too different from what the first would say, but more so, it seems in the terms of not first person. A letter, a message, or information, containing information. that really don't derive the first definition, and it still don't convey the same message of clarity of what communication is, if you ask me. But we gonna always start off with the definition and defining what it is we talking about. So the third definition listed is off from a dictionary: the successful conveying of and sharing of ideas and feelings on a social contact. And I find it odd if you would have to continue to read the definitions in order to find clarity. Because it's like, okay, the first definition was simple, second definition reiterated. And why does the third definition just convey? The successful conveying of and sharing of ideas and feelings through social contact. I just find that funny. You got to get to the third definition in the dictionary to really get a good idea of what, you know what I mean? But the only thing is more power to God, because in three ways you could see some same thing, right? And all that. Understanding. We'll get to that later, y'all. I see you on the flip side. Lately, I've been doing a lot of creative things in the midst of this work. And don't get me wrong, there are aspects of the way in which I do so that I admire, such as the music, the lyric, and all the publishing things in that amount. On the flip side, I've come to an age where it demands more communication. It demands the understanding of age and enlightenment. And more or less, it demands more of me as an individual, as a human. But needless to say, I am a human being on the flip side. I don't aim to portray anything through the character in which I present, but in all hopes, I pray that you see, man, the only results come at a risk, which presents a reward. But in all things, we all must take a leap of faith, man. And so if I could just touch base on me, I'm happy, man. I'm happy. I'm squeezing time. I'm pressing it for mines. And at the same time, I'm loving my family, man. And that's a beautiful thing. This young lady, Isabella, the one you see her face before, if you checked into any other episode. Isabella will be starting kindergarten. Yeah, in a matter of days, not months. You know what I'm saying? It's not only a worrisome thing to myself, but the mother indeed. So, of course, the household, we have a lot on our plate, but we finish our food here. Ultimately, I'd like to say, hey, ain't too much I want to solidify when it comes to putting myself into this, because, feel free to always reach out and ask in a supportive manner, or in any way how you feel. But it's not too much on myself here. Even after all this time I've stretched in the resting period of giving you this episode number 3. But with episode number 3, he's a charmer, But of a lot of things, man, a firm believer. And faith is the key, man. Faith is the key. Because with faith, everything you take action and attempt. I don't know about you, but the God I serve, man, oh man, fulfills though. It's all about what you believe, man, and that's gonna dictate your approach to any action you take. Furthermore, that's all I could say if you want to talk about me. But this is a discussion for us. Fremont Society LLC is a thriving company in which the growing state and reputation hold weight, but not in as much as the value of the things we can offer. This is not something I want to sell to you. This is something I want to distribute in a manner. Let's communicate. So the 7 C's of communication, some years ago when I put the topics for season 1 together, I did a little bit of forethought on communication. I even just, went through a few different things on the topic, just like this approach I'm taking with the 7 C's, were not directly something I received, but maybe through third party indirectly, information that was shared online. But after further research, it was something used in a class session. Link and all discography will be put down below so that you can actually pull up this same form in which I'm, speaking to you and walking with you through. It's not something I generated, and all dues will be paid to that said person or individual or entity. At that moment in my life, I was in a different situation. I was trying to air this podcast. Um, Honestly, this being the second time this podcast is aired, the initial approach was only audio. It was only audio, and I actually did 2 or 3 episodes. I think I even touched this topic the first time, but I wasn't marketing or doing such thing. It was actually a test run in all reality. Uh, so authentically, I kept that recipe because I see that was something that was effective in my life. And when I say that, 7 C's of communication, 7 C's of effective communication, to be correct. At that moment, I was still bouncing around in the streets and everything, you know. And the thing about that was, I was on papers still from an appeal that got turned over, and they still try to, the coattail with the thing. And I'm like, what's up? And I actually was engaging into the idea of this podcast, trying to detour myself from what was an obvious detour in my life. I came to a few conclusions, and those conclusions were that the first few topics I would approach when this actually came to surface would be initial topics that I had to take into consideration myself. I applied all these things in the times that they would be revealed to me, or that I received this information and I'm sharing. So it's not of information that I feel like, oh, I just snatched this and I'm talking to you. You know, even with patterns of pathology on the last episode, I shared how that was even like crossed my path from me being in a class for a decision I made, that whatever the case was. The thing about it is like these are things from years ago. These are things from like over 5 years ago at least. A lot of the things I've related to up to this point, even this topic related discussion, even these notes, they may have been revised. They may have been thought about on my part, but there's no jump to this. I'm a pretty up tempo person. I'm pretty energetic. I put a lot of energy into everything I do, regardless. So just that forethought there, because this isn't something I just the other night looked up and da 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 da. The notes I'm even partaking in now have been rewritten by me more than once. I had to sit down and think about that, reword that, because the thing about it is I can only convey something to you in a manner in which I received it. And that's the communication and understanding thing. That's why I just want to open up with that before I go through this. Now, as we proceed, I thank you. We working with each other at this point to see you on the flip side. Man, I love my lady, y'all. The first effective C to communication is clarity. Make sure that the goal of your message reaches clearly to your audience to keep your message simple and easy to understand. Now, I'll repeat that, not because I think you simple minded, because it takes me a lot of times to hear something audio wise to conceive it. Number one, this first effective C of a communication is clarity. Make sure that the goal of your message reaches clearly to your audience and keep your message simple and easy to understand. Ain't that crazy? Off the bat, for me, I'm looking like, wow, okay, the number one is clarity, the first C, but the last word, right? Making sure that your message is simple and easy to understand. I'm like, what? I'm over here looking. Imagine this is some years ago. I'm really doing some research on communication. And I knew I was going to do communication and understanding because I was going through a hardship and some past things that wasn't agreeing with life at the time. And I didn't know how to communicate and effectively understand that situation. Blah, 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 blah. Fast forward, as I'm researching that and investing my time into these podcasts, it's wild because that first, I was looking at this thing like, okay, 7 effective C's of communication. Let's see what they talking about. Clarity. Hold on, but the message got to be simple and easy to understand. I ain't even got to understanding yet. I mean, even with the research, I started from the jump with communication like that. So I was like, okay, I'm getting somewhere because this first C relates to understanding. Or bada boom, bada bang. You got something. But making sure that the goal of your message, though, reaches clearly, that's even more important. That's something I'm practicing urgently, diligently, and praying on. So understanding really is gonna fall under your goal and of having a message that reaches clearly, and that's something to keep in mind. Everybody has great reason, and I'm pretty sure everybody got something great to say too. I'm quite certain if you want to bet money on me, I'll find somebody who got something to say. So, with that being said, it's the goal of having that message prepared in a way that could clearly convey the audience to understand in a simple and easy way, which is not easy at all. It'll give you a headache, but as over the time I've even went over these things, you just got to break it down. That's number one. That's clarity. All of that in the essence of clarity. Number 2, conciseness. When the last time you heard that word? Be concise. Looking at, I ain't heard that word in a minute. The second effective C of communication. Be short and to the point. Avoid repetition and unnecessary words, including only relevant material. Conciseness. Repetition, honestly, is practice with me. And if I'm practicing, I'm trying to master, yada yada, that's self though. But if you want me to be concise right here and now, keep it short. Be short and to the point. Avoid repetition and unnecessary words, which I do. I could relate in a way. I do try to avoid certain things, man. I want to push this as far as the eyes can see and the ears can hear. And at that point, physically, we could reach. And I mean, that's even like to the younger generation. That's to the older fellows. That's to the middle age. And that is to a growing class of civilization, the human race. Ultimately, being concise is always valid, and I agree. We should be very concise and straight to the point about anything we're communicating or anything, you know, because if you're communicating something and you're trying to get your point across, you feel valid in everything you say, respectfully. There's a point where you just got to be straight to the point and concise. You know what I'm saying? You got to avoid unnecessary words, beating around, whether that's adding to or taking away, you know, because I feel like unnecessary words meaning that you don't even say a word and you know what I mean? That's unnecessary words too, because shoot, you felt that was unnecessary, so you didn't even say it. So if you avoid unnecessary words in general, I look at it a flip, man. So I look at those words as words you spoke and words you didn't say, unnecessary words. I'm understanding that somebody feels that's unnecessary to say. Then on the other hand, somebody feel like somebody's saying something that's unnecessary. Boom. The third effective C of communication is described as concreteness. Concreteness. Ensuring that all important details and facts are mentioned, but that nothing deters from the focus of the message. But that nothing deters from the focus of your message. Just stick to the script. Stay on track. What are you doing it for? I mean, I don't even want to have to sit here and break down what being concrete is. I would feel very deprived of my time because it's straight to the point with that one, man. And it's up to you to ensure that you are providing the details and facts that need to be shared in order to keep the focus on the message. You know, whatever you communicating, I don't care if you making a call for a ride, you making a call for a job, you making a call, right? Be concrete, be solid about it. Just stick to the script. Keep the details and facts lined up, and don't detour your message, man. Don't detour your. Don't worry about that rest of that shit. Be concrete. Number 4, man. Number 4. That is the 4th effective C of communication. That's correctness. Correctness. I know, right? Initially, I'm like correctness. What you mean correcting? I just came from correct. Correctness, man. But check it out. Number 4, conveying all the facts required by the audience. Don't leave any scope for assumptions or vagueness. Now, ain't that the flip of the determination? Convey the facts required by the audience. Now, that's a heck of a thing. Required in effective communication. Now you really taking it outside of your voice, because being correct. Nobody really just be talking to be correct, even if you getting your point across, unless you being tested. But I mean, that's another type of thing. But think about it, correctness in communication every time you talking though. Like, man, I'm gonna make sure I come correct. That used to be original. It's not different. Being correct and having a correctness in your communication is effective, man. I say that from a whole bunch of standpoints, from the pen to the streets, man. It's firm in that. Convey all the facts required by the audience. See, you're not gonna communicate with somebody, I mean, unless you trying to get a point across. But think about this though. Even in your reason and communication, you know you gotta approach a certain person a certain way. You know that if I pull up over here asking for this, that's not gonna I ain't coming correct over here, man. They don't do that. But then you might go over here and see the fresh market with produce and all that, and be like, yeah, I could pull up. Can I get a watermelon real quick? Hey, y'all growing tomatoes too, man? Cause I really ain't. How about them eggs? They high. You gonna communicate away with a farmer, you know what I'm saying, who go over there swapping shop trying to get that money, versus someone who's at the mall, let's just say the Legends or something, and they shopping for a fit or whatever it is. You're not gonna approach those two things the same way. So even with that, even with getting your point across, that's just me trying to create a image of what I see through coming correct. So coming correct, you know, you ain't gonna go nowhere like the swapper shop looking for the new drop of Jordans. What? You coming, bro? You came over here thinking you gonna get some real ones, not some knockoffs or something, bro? Whatever. But you go to the Legends trying to go buy some fresh tomatoes, some watermelons. Yeah, come correct. Dope though. I like that one. It was the most oddest one with the curve, like concrete. Then correct, come correct. Number 4, I'm like, yeah, I'm using that. Shout out to them. Number 5, completeness. The 5th C of effective communication is completeness. Make sure the mission complete, boy. That's me. But communication should be accurate. There should not be any grammatical, the non-factual or technical errors that bring room for question. Be complete. Communication should be accurate. There shouldn't be any grammatical, non-factual, technical errors in what you are saying. You're giving room for a misunderstanding. You're giving room for the lack thereof, man, because you're not providing. When you communicate with someone, you do have to provide. It is a give and take, and with that, it takes understanding. What you're giving is that communicative effort. That's what I'm saying. Number 6, consideration. The 6C of effective communication. Consideration. Take the audience into consideration. For example, the audience's viewpoints, backgrounds, and the level of expertise in which they are listening or hearing. Take the audience into consideration, right? Consideration. Take the person you talking to into consideration. Take the person you have to interact with, because we don't always acknowledge communication on the scale of how much we use it. Like, we all using that. So whether you make a decision to go to the store or go to school or go to work or go pursue anything in this earth, you gonna communicate unconsciously or consciously. You go to that same gas station and ask for the same thing, you ain't really thinking about it when you go there. Like, I need to go to the store to go get some more. You're not, after so long, you're not actually thinking about the communication more or less with that person that you probably see more or less. But that's something we all got to have a consideration, because we got stuff going on. I might have walked in the store and asked for a drink, and I ain't probably think nothing of it either. And dude probably, I wasn't considering none of that. Now, I can't expect him to communicate with me proper either, though, because I ain't considering that. I might just need some matches. And I might, man, hey, I know you got matches. Let me get that. Now, I ain't knocking it because I done did it. But you can't really consider that person got to be effectively communicating with you at that point. You just like, give me that, or what you in my face for? I'm going to see, it's give and take, man. So he ain't trying to understand either. Peep me? Consideration. Taking the audience into consideration, man. Now, if I could further add to that, which I ain't trying to, this is hypothetically just how I receive it and how I apply it. I add to see the viewpoints, background, level of expertise in my head. That creates 3 different dividing lines I just saw. Instantly. Boom, 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 pillars. Because now you're looking at it like, damn, I got to think about it this hard. I got to consider all this. Viewpoint, background, level of expertise. But if you really think about it, though, if you do consider that, you might not even approach them the same. You actually might have taken more from that conversation than you were asking for. You might have wanted a zoom, zoom, and a wham, wham, and walked out with a boom, boom, and a bam, bam. All I'm saying, you see, you fill in the blanks. I'm just not leaving it blank. But for me, that's how I receive that. I looked, and I'm like, dang, true. I don't be considering that. But if I did consider that, is it a waste? That's for you, though, man. For you, though. But the seventh C of effective communication, as we conclude this half of episode 3. I know you was waiting. Make sure you wait. 7th C is courtesy. Courtesy. When the last time you heard that word? Oh, be courteous. Listen. I ain't heard courteous out my grandmama mouth in a minute. I know you ain't. But see, if you want to effectively communicate, let's take some courtesy in what we communicating. Let me go ahead. Approach the audience in a friendly and courteous manner. That don't actually mean you gotta be weird, as I want to just annotate. See, motherfucker take a word like friendly and courteous manner, those are 3 solid words. Being friendly, courteous, and in a manner is kind of like, to me, love, loyalty with respect. Friendly, courteous, in a manner. Those are 3 different terms that are actually 3 different type of verbs and adjectives, whatever. Let's not go there, because we all learning, right? We all taking this in. But I say this with pride, because I am that guy. I am that guy who, the opposite of what these things kind of was, in a certain point in life. So it gets on my gears because I look at it, I'll be like, I see these things too, and these is all 7 C's. But anyways, avoid the use of passive aggressive tones when you communicate, and be open and honest. And I find it like this though: if your approach is to effectively communicate something, you will, in essence, communicate things in a courteous way. Honestly, I don't care who you are, because let's say it like this: getting out the joint, right? And this is me getting out the joint. I knew about hella places I could go apply who hired felons already and stuff, and all these things. I had printouts people sent me. I had stuff lined up. I'm gonna go there, enter all that. You think I was going to them interviews and not being courteous, boy? You think I that wasn't them with the best thrifty nickel? You think I was? Yep, yes, sir. Last 5 years, school. You know, and courteous. Last 5 years, yeah, school. So come on, man. However you really want to communicate something, I don't want to hear it, bro. You gonna be courteous if you're trying to effectively communicate that. That's a respectful gesture, and it goes with the other C's, man. I won't drag that because I kind of expanded the communication. I like to show you my theory on it because my theory is not my theory. My theory is an open awareness. I don't make theories here. I just see you on the flip side. So number one was clarity. Number two, conciseness. Three, concreteness. Four, correctness. Five, completeness. And six was consideration, followed by seven, which was courtesy. I ain't gonna lie to you. I believe if you applied all seven of those, you probably do communicate on a well manner, you know what I'm saying? Way you probably could talk to a few people in different ways because you understand how to communicate. But I will say, if you stick around, I think understanding, I think understanding will complement communication. That's just my opinion, though. I think that understanding complements communication. That's why I put it together. It's like a two for one. It's a twofer. You dig? We communicating all day long, at home, at work, with friends. Uh, you know, these are all just a few principles that could be followed while you're in that place, or in which you're communicating with different types of people, such as clients, co-workers, seniors, juniors, etc. Man, communication, it will be the last thing you do. Now, don't take my word for that, but all I'm saying is it's essential. So we touched bases on communicating, right? Yeah, we touched bases on communication. Um, Understanding. I pray we find an understanding right now. I pray that even if I misunderstand who I'm speaking to, or if vice versa, that clarity is sought out, understanding is found, and that clarity is always given in any given moment. Because I could jump out here doing this, and I'm telling you what I get out of it. That doesn't guarantee everyone will see the same message, written in the same manner, or like receive something in the same way. In all humbleness, I understand. I like to speak on that because as a man today in society, a very much multi-ethnic man in society today, it's very, very much necessary to understand who you're talking to. Understanding who you're talking to is not a bad thing. You can use it in any kind of way you want, but in reality, understanding who you're talking to is essential. You're not gonna go to Walmart trying to get a job at Target. Knowing who you're talking to is essential, right? Right. We're gonna keep the understanding short and sweet because I kept on leaning on understanding throughout this. Because on the way out, we just gonna talk about how we understand that. Today we will visit these five keys to basically understanding. titled The Five Principles of Understanding. Keys, right? Okay, I came across this, looking all into it, putting it together, and The Five Principles of Understanding by Ron Graham was just something that stuck out to me. Links will be provided. One of the five key principles of understanding is loving the truth, welcoming the truth. Lord, loving the truth, welcoming the truth. Lord, what that mean? Meaning I ain't taking none of that BS. It's either straight up and down, north and south, Antarctica and North Pole. Straight up and down. First principle is to love the truth and to welcome the truth. And all of these are going to be pretty short and sweet. Just to touch bases on that, loving the truth can be looked at as, in my eyes, living the truth. Loving is living, and living is life, and all that. That's, if you know, That's the old throwback for the record players, But loving the truth, though, and welcoming the truth. Now look at that, though, because when you communicating with somebody in efforts to understand them or understand the situation, wouldn't you love the truth? Wouldn't you welcome the truth? Let's say you're making a deal for a meal or a bill or a trill, all them words I've never seen before. You're making that deal. Are you gonna you gonna love the truth there, ain't you? You gonna welcome some truth in that, like how much I owe you. See, I get to say anything. I ain't toxic, man. I see toxic, and we all actually are toxic in nature. But that's another story. The thing about it is, welcoming the truth and loving the truth is just two things that you gotta do. If you want to understand anything, just think about it. The second principle of understanding: searching or studying through wisdom and knowledge, scripture, written truth. Searching, studying, seeking out the facts, seeking out the wisdom, seeking out. So, okay, you want to fly a plane, right, buddy? Now we going into example. You want to fly a plane. Okay. I'm pretty sure you're going to fly a million simulations before you ever fly a plane. Even if you searching, studying, I got to go find the game. Yes, you do. You do. Because even the guy who going to fly you from KC to LA, KC to Miami, KC to anywhere off of this continent, he did a whole bunch of fake flying before he ever flew you there. And that's on everything. Go try it. Unless you got something private going on, and I ain't knocking you. But think about this. You got to study, you got to search and seek whatever it is out to understand, let alone communicate. So as we proceed, I'm showing you, see, the flip side of these manners. I'm reading something, that Ron Graham put together for most likely a class, right? And you will see as it's annotated if you revisit these studies. The thing about it is, in the context in which it's taken, it could be reiterated. You know what I'm saying? But if you want me to be plain and see why I'm raising my animosity with this one, it's because, man, Jesus said, seek and ye shall find. You know what I'm saying? God said all that, and some more. And then I just sit here. I see you on the flip side. You see what I'm saying? And that's a big high five for God. But number 3, comparing the information and learning step by step. The third principle to understanding is comparing the information received. the wisdom you have interpreted, and knowing how to go step for step with that. Remember that two circles that we used to draw? No, get your mind out the gutter, boy. Remember them two circles we would draw and they collided, and yeah, it was one in the middle, a little oval, and then there was some other little things on the side. Now think about this. Now after you done sorted out, you know what I'm saying, you done studied, you learn how to do that. You learn, I know, you know, like, okay, I can do that. I actually, man, listen, I already looked, I read, I studied, all that, boom, 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 and I watched the videos. You know you could do that, right? All that being said, would you take the time to compare? And, hey, it say right here the third principle is comparing, right? And you know what I'm saying, line of step for step. For me, I'm gonna add this because I'm not trying to take away, but contrast, comparing and contrasting that information and that you just sought out and studied to understand, even if it's in a physical representation of somebody communicating to you, and you like trying to understand what they saying. You like, what is they saying to me? You were studying this person, right? You study it. You say, are you looking like, man, I'm looking for, why is this, and, you know, talking to me? Why are they even saying this? You know, I mean, I'm speaking from an adult standpoint of communication, in which I'm saying, you gonna compare and I add contrast, because it just say compare on here, but contrast, because I do that. Okay, how is this like and not alike? Yada yada. Either way, you must weigh that out, man. In my own words, weigh that out, because your step for step has to be weighed out, right? And what is it weighed on? What is it weighed on? It's your understanding, man. It's your understanding. And communication is an effective tool to, you know what I'm saying? It requires your understanding. It's going to actually demand your communication, supply, demand. We're going to go somewhere with these podcasts. I just need you to understand, because I'm finding and seeking out said things. So number 4 of the 5 principles of understanding, as Ron Graham has listed, asking God for help, and asking for support. Now, furthermore, I won't argue in order neither or. Asking for God's help, I'm going to always do that. And asking for support, if I need that, best believe that. Don't neglect yourself if you need help. You know what I'm saying? Where they be like, don't neglect yourself. Yeah. Don't neglect yourself if you need help. Trust me, I need help a lot of times in life. And there are things I need help with consistently. Listen, don't deny yourself in a manner of neglecting. Ask God for help, but not only ask God for help, take action in asking others for the support you need. A no does not mean somebody doesn't want to help you. Sometimes you got to realize somebody can't help you. Somebody won't help you with the awareness knowing they can't help you. You got to understand, though, you still got to ask for help. If you don't understand that, then you don't really want that. Now, and I have to take that to a deep level, because not everybody does want help. Now, this is where understanding gets very crazy, because only the people who ask for help are the people who really want help. People who ask for support are the ones who really want support. But then you have to understand, some people think others may need help and may need support. Now, if you're asking God for help like he listed first, this doesn't apply. But if you want to take it elsewhere outside of God, asking for that support and stuff, you know, somebody saying no to you, or you saying no to someone in a manner of support, does not dictate the amount of support is necessary for that person or for that thing or situation. And this is why understanding is it's short and sweet, but it's key. That's why I added, it's 5 principles of understanding. I added 5 key principles in my own words of understanding, because I'm like, this is key to communication. If you can look at this from a perspective of a revolving view like this earth does, even the sun won't show up on one side of things. Even the moon won't show up on the same side as the sun. They call that eclipse. And we all see that. So, other than that, you have to know and understand that in the same manner of support, asking God for help will be the utmost thing that we all could do. But I'm in agreement that asking for support as well. But I would like to add understanding the no's and the yeses, woo, are deeper than we can dive. But as I just had reiterated on a manner of um, being aware that someone may say no to a supportive thing because they cannot support that. Not because they just will not, but then on the other side of things, there are people who just will not support that could. This is just an open awareness you have to have. And I'm talking about when you're communicating on a job scale, personal, business, developmental, supportive, educational, all the things you could say. You got to be open and aware that actually the world is full of vast varieties. You know, there's people who truly believe that because of this, they won't help that. You cannot get mad at them. You can't separate that. All you got to know is that's the way that is. That's the, yeah, okay. You ain't gonna communicate to that crowd, that audience, as we talked about in communication. So, you know, with that understanding, if somebody come at you like that, you don't even have to communicate back if that's not what you agree with. And that's where I'm going at with that. And it seems very aggressive with this passiveness, but I really got to put a little me with every one of these because I know there's people, like me out there in the world have been through things, and whatever I can say, they can relate in certain things. Some people are the opposite. But with that being said, the support is needed from everybody. Needs support. I don't care if you have the most money in the world. I guarantee you have the most taxes in the world. You need somebody to help you count that. That's what I mean. Like my perspective, and I see you on the flip side. It's irrelevant, but it's very relevant to these topics. We're going to conclude with the fifth principle, the fifth key principle of understanding today. That's abiding by your word, in the word, and standing on that. Abiding by your word, in the word, and standing on that. I added standing on that, though. I'll be real with you. Because when you look at the annotation of these five principles of understanding, you'll see. It's only right. Abiding by your word, in the word. I would just add standing on that. You know what I'm saying? So I keep that with short because everything that led to that fifth key principle of understanding, it's like I feel you're abiding in that same measure, on that same standard, and that's all you expect when you're trying to understand something because you know that these are keys to understanding the situation in which we are facing. You know, coming to Kansas City recently, it took a lot of understanding for me. I'm from Kansas City. I've been out of town for a while, back after some time. You know, a child is entering into the school system and all these things. There's laws that have changed. There are provisions given, and there are difficulties that try to prevent stuff. You know, more or less, it takes a lot of understanding in my life right now, a lot of communication too. I'm talking to the schools, I'm talking to these people, you know, I'm talking to all that, the family, you know, anything that is in efforts of understanding what that predicament may pertain to. And specifically having to do with this young lady in which we are raising and we are providing this education information for that we trust a system to provide in which we're promised, in which she is definitely deserving of. You know, we all go through these things, these growths, and we need certain things. And we know at a certain point in life when we produce something more that they are deserving of, even more or less than what we have received. It's a very tough time for the first time. You know what I'm saying? Get your mind out the gutter, homie. But the thing about it is, understanding is key. Understanding is key. I don't want to say one is more than the other. It was 7 effective C's to communication versus these 5 principles, key principles, if you ask me, of understanding. And I feel like if you literally take and put these things, I'm just putting into a stress ball right now, yada yada. You probably would see how those 2 circles meet in the middle. And in the middle is where you find the things that relate to you often. I'd like to say, I mean, as far as I can remember, my daughter will be learning this soon. When you compare and contrast, don't neglect the medium. Don't neglect that part though. That oval that we never quite use every day in life. You know what I mean? Be like, you don't want no oval pizza. You don't want no oval cake. You know what I'm saying? You don't want no oval tire, nigga. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, don't neglect that little oval in the middle though, because what you got to understand is everything meets. Whether it meets a requirement, meets a condition, meets a state of mind, meets a resonance, meets the truth, meets the revelation, meets the healing. The man, listen, it's always gonna meet the measure. I'm just your host, Flip the Script. I gotta do that too. I gotta apply something to gain. What are we talking about? This is education for creation.
Subscribe and watch these videos. Make sure you subscribe all the time. Thanks, subscribe and subscribe only one time. And you are the best. You believe. Thanks for subscribing, and you are the best. You've seen what you ever seen. Be behavior, and don't forget to subscribe and watch these channels and believe. Don't subscribe on these videos.